49ers week in review. We've gotten used to doing these on Monday to wrap up what had happened over the week before. And this one is loaded. A lot happened for the 49ers, starting with Christian McCaffrey's new contract. He was the highest paid running back in the league before. Now he's the highest paid running back in the league by a bigger margin. And the 49ers were able to strike a win-win deal with Christian McCaffrey. Here you go, the article up on The Athletic. The headline, I think, explains so much of the dynamic that was good for both the 49ers and for CMC. How the 49ers paid Christian McCaffrey and still have room for Brandon Ayuk and Brock Purdy contracts. If you scroll down here, you can see how San Francisco was actually able to give Christian McCaffrey guaranteed money, which he didn't have before and which he obviously deserved as the reigning offensive player of the year. And they're also able to defer the salary cap hits, meaning that Christian McCaffrey's cap hits went down in 2024 and 2025 significantly, even while he's paid more money and the 49ers have more team control in this deal. So win-win. 49ers open up space. Christian McCaffrey get some much needed money. And it just shows you that guaranteed money is king in the NFL. Obviously, you only want to give out guaranteed money to players who you believe will be efficient performing on those contracts. But Christian McCaffrey, who's on his way to the Hall of Fame in all likelihood, does fall into that category. Two more players who might fall into that category are Trent Williams and George Kittle. And according to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, both of those guys might be interested in new contracts at some point. We're not necessarily saying this offseason, but potentially next offseason for somebody like Trent Williams. A lot of misinformation or just flat out uninformed takes out there thinking that Trent Williams wanting a new contract is somehow a bad deal for the 49ers. I can guarantee you that those are the same people who are blowing hot air about the 49ers offensive line not being good enough for their standards. Well, you can't have both. If one of the greatest left tackles of all time wants to continue playing for your team, and that's what him wanting a new contract would mean, that's a good thing for that team's offensive line. Trent Williams is still playing absolute top-tier football. We actually haven't seen any type of slowdown from big number 71. So the fact that he might want a new contract at some point would mean that he would like to prolong his career. He's got 3 years left on his contract. So next offseason, Trent Williams will be in the same situation that Christian McCaffrey was in this offseason, and that is playing into the final 2 years of his deal. Often you'll see a team extend a player before the final season of his contract, but the 49ers, with the cap rising the way that it is, are incentivized to get extensions done for superstar players who are still going to be around for a little while longer sooner than that. Because again, back to the McCaffrey example, they can use the accordion style bonus structure to push their cap hits into the future, and they can surf the wave of a rising salary cap in zero interest loan fashion. So if Trent Williams does indeed want a new deal after this offseason, potentially, they can lower his cap hit, open some room for Brock Purdy, and most importantly, have the peace of mind. They can go to sleep at night knowing that Trent Williams wants to continue being a 49er. He doesn't just want to retire after next season. Jeremy Fowler added that George Kittle might be in a similar boat as well. Kittle's got 2 years left on his contract right now, so it's actually the same spot as Christian McCaffrey was in. You could probably even draw more parallels between Kittle and McCaffrey than you can Williams and McCaffrey, for the reason that Kittle's playing at an underpaid position, tight end, just like McCaffrey's playing at an underpaid position at running back. Those guys are just as valuable as some of the top wideouts in the league, but they're not making nearly as much as some of those top wide receivers. Actually, smart for the 49ers to be investing their money into premium players at positions that are impactful, like running back and tight end, but don't make as much as receiver. But you know, George Kittle is just as valuable to the 49ers as somebody like Brandon Ayuk. Christian McCaffrey, just as valuable, maybe even more valuable than somebody like Brandon Ayuk. It's not downplaying what Ayuk is doing, but it is emphasizing that the players that the 49ers love to feature are positionless skill position weapons. The adaptability is huge in this offense. George Kittle, 1,000-yard receiving season. Christian McCaffrey lines up as a wide receiver so often, is just as big of a threat in the pass game as he is in the run game. However, the franchise tag for his position, the running back position, the franchise tag for George Kittle's position, tight end, not nearly as big as it is for receivers. So the salaries there are lower, meaning that the 49ers get more bang for their buck. That being said, both Kittle and McCaffrey at the top of their respective positions or near there. A new deal for George Kittle would probably get him back into that number one spot amongst tight ends where he was when he first signed a big contract with the 49ers in 2020. Speaking of tight ends, they're part of our week in review. The 49ers signed Logan Thomas just ahead of their veteran minicamp last week. Logan Thomas, 55 catches for Washington last year. I think really good pass catching tight end. Just a big target for Brock Purdy. I've talked so much about Purdy and how good he's been with throwing the big targets because the accuracy is precise with Brock Purdy. So he's a quarterback that could take advantage of those guys that are 6'5" and above. And Logan Thomas is north of 6'6". So Purdy can put that football where it needs to be, to where only the 6'6" guy can reach it. You don't see 6'6" defensive backs in the NFL. So I think that Logan Thomas can really succeed with the 49ers and Brock Purdy. They have not had good tight end 2 production throughout the entirety of the Shanahan-Lynch regime. Maybe a couple games of Jordan Reed, but he got hurt so quickly in that 2020 season. And Kittle also got hurt that year. You didn't see him on the field at the same time, except maybe once in a blue moon. So Logan Thomas is the 49ers' latest attempt to bring in some competitive depth at the very least to the tight end position. He's not guaranteed that tight end 2 spot by any stretch of the imagination. They actually brought him in on a veteran salary benefit, which means he's making the veteran minimum a little bit over $1 million, but he only counts about $940,000 against the cap. That's in the CBA, the veteran salary benefit. The 49ers have a few players they managed to keep the cap hit smaller on through that mechanism. So it's a very low pressure 1-year deal, maybe a little bit guaranteed, maybe a couple $100,000 guaranteed. But other than that, the 49ers have brought Logan Thomas. He had 55 catches last year for Washington, 33-year-old tight end. They've brought him in to compete with somebody like Braden Willis, who had a really, really good spring for San Francisco, was much more featured in the pass game than he was last year. So maybe Willis will be ready to take the next step. You know, maybe somebody like Eric Saubert, veteran who's been in the league since 2017, who's with the 49ers now, will be able to give the 49ers a nice floor at that tight end position. Everybody wonders about Cam Latu, but he hasn't participated in practice yet since the big knee surgery last year. And that put him on the shelf right after the really rough training camp where he dropped a bunch of passes. So once training camp convenes here in about a month and a half, we'll get to see Cam Latu presumably back out on the field. But he's going to have a lot of competition between Willis, between Eric Saubert, between Logan Thomas, and then some of the younger guys as well, Mason Pline and Jake Tonjes. The offseason program, by the way, is now officially wrapped up for the San Francisco 49ers. It was fun going out there and watching this team perform over the course of the past few weeks, but all fun things do need to eventually end. I did have some video footage of the 49ers at practice that I can play for you right now. This is good for a 49ers week in review. But there's Trent Williams. There's Nick Bosa. I mentioned Trent Williams, potential new deal. Would be great news for the 49ers if that's what he wants. Obviously, that reporting from Jeremy Fowler is still very much in the preliminary stage. And I think that at this point, more likely to happen next offseason than this offseason. Tanner Mordecai, 49ers rookie quarterback. There's Kyle Shanahan and Deebo Samuel at practice. Good times indeed for the 49ers. It was really relaxed out there as the offseason program did wrap up. Now, one person that you don't see here with Deebo Samuel and Kyle Shanahan is Brandon Ayuk. That remains in a holding pattern. As I told you when this Justin Jefferson deal was signed, and that was a big thing that happened this past week, should probably be mentioned in 49ers Week in Review. I think, you know, McCaffrey obviously did sign his new deal. There he is shaking hands with Trent Williams and Nick Bosa. But in the case of Brandon Ayuk, the polarization of this negotiation process really intensified with this. Look at the gap in fully guaranteed money between Justin Jefferson and the rest of the wide receiver deals. So the previous high water mark was Tyreek Hill at $52.5 million. Justin Jefferson at $88.7 million. That is a 69% increase We've never seen that kind of increase, a $36.2 million gap. There are people that wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Ayuk's new contract has only $36.2 million total and fully guaranteed money. I think it's going to be higher than that. I think this Jefferson deal is going to help it be higher than that. But the main point is that the 49ers don't want to go this high or don't want to close much of this gap for Brandon Ayuk. Neither do the Cowboys for CeeDee Lamb. Neither do the Bengals for Jamar Chase. So the teams ultimately have the leverage here. These guys are still under contract with them. The franchise tag still belongs to the team. So the Vikings went haywire. I don't know why they went haywire with the Justin Jefferson contract, but they did. I'm sure it doesn't make teams very happy, but it makes receivers hopeful. At the very least, they can take a bite into that contract. And if teams like the 49ers continue to play hardball and say, no, we're not going to go anywhere near Justin Jefferson money, I could see receivers becoming a little bit upset. And anytime that one party is discontent, then there's less of a chance of a deal being reached, at least imminently. So I think the Brandon Ayuk holding pattern is going to last probably until at least the inflection point of deadline pressure that is the start of training camp, maybe further than that to the bigger inflection point of deadline pressure that is week 1 of the regular season. It was the latter that spurred along the Nick Bosa deal last year. And Nick Bosa had, I thought, deadline pressure leverage over the 49ers. He ended up getting the deal that he really wanted, the record-shattering deal across many fronts that Justin Jefferson's contract actually emulated and slightly surpassed. Brandon Ayuk, I don't think, is going to have the same leverage because, A, he's not Nick Bosa, but B, the 49ers have different players at that receiver position who can pick up a lot of the slack that Brandon Ayuk can would pick up if he was in the building. And one of those players is the rookie Ricky Pearsall. The rookie Ricky Pearsall, who I believe we've got somewhere in this tape from 49ers mini camp. Offensive lineman working. There you have a look at Colton McKivitz and Spencer Burford. We can fast forward back to see Talanoa Hufanga, Trent Williams, and Nick Bosa. And yeah, here you go. Ricky Pearsall's in that blue non-contact jersey. Who isn't there? Brandon Ayuk isn't part of this 49ers receiving group. So that's, I mean, Pearsall, with the way that he moves, you see that quick little stutter step. He does represent the 49ers' ability to hold the upper hand leverage in anything related to Brandon Ayuk as this moves forward. Mike sent me another one of those graphics. Wow, yards per route run, single high and two high. Wow, this is going to be good. This is a good thing to include in 49ers week in review. I'm going to put this on the screen really quickly, and we will be able to see Brandon Ayuk in the upper right of another graph. So let's go for this. Right. I got to find my window first. If I ever do find my window, then we will put this up on the screen. I just lost my window. How embarrassing. There it is. All right, check this out. So this is a really, really big chart, but yards per route run against two high safety coverage is on the x-axis. Yards per route run against single high safety coverage is on the y-axis. Look where Brandon Ayuk is at the very top. Jefferson, Nico Collins, who got a new deal as well. A.J. Brown got a new contract. CeeDee Lamb. So as I've been saying all off season, Ayuk is in this upper crust of receivers, but that still doesn't justify an outlier deal. I don't think that Justin Jefferson's deal was justified either, that kind of size. So the teams and the player have to find that middle ground in negotiations. Interestingly enough, you see Deebo Samuel over here. Good versus two high coverage, not as good versus single high coverage, which is going to mean more man against the receiver at the line of scrimmage. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk better against man coverage than Deebo Samuel, which is why I think that's one of the reasons why he is so damn valuable to this team. All right, this is quick. I like to keep these under 15 minutes. This has been the 49ers week in review from CMC's new deal. More win-wins coming, potentially contractually with Trent Williams and George Kittle. 49ers signed Logan Thomas. Offseason program is wrapped up, and Brandon Ayuk is still in a holding pattern. Also, San Francisco Fire Department Station number 13 swung by there. They've got a Brock Purdy jersey up on the wall. They want Purdy to come in, take some photos with the guys we'll see if we can make it happen at some point. All right, everybody, take care. Have a great week. A lot of content coming, including a show. Guy Haberman and I are going to have a fun show this evening, this afternoon, I think around 3 p.m. Pacific time. So go ahead and like the channel, sub to the video, hit that notification bell so you know when Guy and I are going to be live a little bit later today. Everybody have a great Monday.